So a big reason why Usyk versus RICO is so controversial isn't even just because of the early stoppage. It is because of how these judges, these corrupt, biased, just judges, scored this fight. Honestly, an absolute joke. Me personally, I thought Rico was way up, and many had the same scorecard as me. I think at most you can give Usyk 3 rounds at the time of the stoppage. The fact that at the time of the stoppage, two of the judges had a draw. What? I personally gave Usyk 2 rounds, but you could give him three, no more than that at the time of the stoppage. And it's like, they were trying to rob him bad, and they did, but the moment you hear the live scorecards, I knew something fishy would happen, and it did with that stoppage. You knew something would happen. I'm going to go through this fight round by round because I'm seeing many people say, oh, reason why, many fans are giving all these rounds to Rico and not giving Usyk many is because of the fact they were surprised at how good Rico was. But it's not that at all. Rico won these rounds based on what I'm about to go through now. Personally, I gave Usyk rounds 4 and 10. Possibly one of the earlier ones as well, but Rico was clearly winning the fight. Only one judge at the time of the stoppage had Rico winning, and that was only by 2 points. You know, it's fishy, it's dodgy. Let's go through it though. I thought round one I gave to Rico. I think that was obviously Rico's round. He came out on the front foot, much more aggressive, and I think was in control of Usyk. Usyk did nothing. Usyk didn't really throw anything in this first round. Rico was throwing, came out very jittery with jittery movements. He was just doing much more. It seemed Usyk was reading him, but Rico landed the noticeable shots. Usyk didn't really do anything here, but Rico was trying to, pump out that lead hand early, and Usyk wasn't really doing anything at all in that first round. But I think it's clear to see Usyk was surprised by Rico in that first round. Round two, again, I gave to Rico Verhoeven. I thought Rico was clearly stronger in the clinches. Usyk was circling around him, but there wasn't really loads of clean work. And eventually, once Rico started to move to his left hand side, it did make it hard for Usyk, and there wasn't loads going on in round two. There wasn't loads going on, but Rico was able to circle to his left, kind of midway through. That's where we got that going. Usyk wasn't doing loads. Rico didn't do loads, but Rico was clearly doing more, and I thought Rico landed a good few decent straight shots to the body in this second round, and I think probably had more effective moments than what Alexander Usyk did. And at this point, it still looked like Alexander Usyk was trying to read Rico Verhoeven. Round three again, I thought Rico took, and Rico was clearly, starting to gain more confidence. He was moving and circling to his left very well. Then came, trying to rush Alexander Usyk in a straight line, trying to back him up against the ropes, and Usyk didn't really like it. And in my opinion, Usyk was still pretty passive in round three. But Rico, kept pumping at his lead hand, trying to, disrupt the rhythm a bit. And again, circling to his left, dictating the footwork battle between him and Alexander Usyk. It was working. And Usyk couldn't force it the other way. Usyk could not, he found it very hard to move to his right because Rico was completely shutting him down, and Rico really imposed himself on him. So he was making life really difficult for Alexander Usyk. Round four, I gave to Alexander Usyk. This is when I thought Usyk would really start to take back over. Usyk seemed in control of the fourth round, very in control. He was landing some good combos. And I was thinking at the time, he was letting Rico off the hook a bit. Clearly not, though. But his feet seemed better, he seemed set up better, and he was landing the cleaner work. He seemed quicker with his shots. He was picking some decent shots together. Rico wasn't really phased by much, but Usyk seemed more confident. It seemed like, he had more of a read of Rico Verhoeven in this fourth round. But we then go to the fifth round, and it was the exact same as what we were seeing really in those first 3 rounds. There wasn't loads going on. Rico, there was just much more physical aggression from him, and cleaner single shots from Rico Verhoeven. And Usyk's volume, again, it wasn't there. It wasn't there. He was not throwing that left hand whatsoever. And you're thinking at this point, 4-1 to Rico, it's getting stranger. It's getting strange. We then got around 6, and again, I was confident Rico took this round as well. You know, Rico, I thought, had much better ring presence. He was still trying to rush Alexander Usyk and, you know, trying to make it as messy as possible, was way stronger than him in those clinches, and was in his face, kept Usyk backed up on that back foot. Again, I don't think Rico did loads, but you know he was tagging Usyk with a good few shots as we started to go on more. But I don't think Rico was ever doing loads. He wasn't throwing loads of punches and bunches or anything like that. It's just I think a big thing was Usyk wasn't doing anything, and Rico he was thinking if he throws stuff, then you know he's going to be picking up these rounds. But yeah, I think Rico was just looking much more effective and just much more imposed. You know, really imposed himself on Alexander Usyk. Round 7 again, I thought Rico Verhoeven took. Rico's jab, his timing, you know, was still very good. Usyk was starting to look frustrated, and his team himself, his own team were telling him, "You need to wake up here." His own team thought he wasn't doing enough. And it's not because Usyk was bad or making any mistakes. It's just that he wasn't doing much. And we weren't seeing the usual bouncy Alexander Usyk in this fight. And Rico was again able just to impose himself, keep centering, wasn't phased by anything Usyk when Usyk did anything, he wasn't phased by his power whatsoever. He wasn't phased by anything. He was happy to stand centering, try and trade a bit, and was getting to Usyk, was tagging him a lot upstairs. And again, landing some good solid shots to the body, and I think in the mid rounds the body shots were really starting to play much more of an effect on Alexander Usyk, and they were getting to him. They really were. Round 8 again, Rico still seemed fresh. Usyk wasn't really hurting, wasn't really getting to him, and I think round 8, you know, he was making it ugly, he was making it awkward, he was staying in his face, and again tagging Alexander Usyk, got him up against the ropes and up close. You know, landed some good sneaky body shots and got Usyk a bit of reactions out of Usyk to the body is a big thing which I noticed throughout the mid rounds in this fight. And again, I thought round 8 was the same thing. Round 9, I still don't think Usyk was doing enough, and it was just much more of the same thing. And Rico's confidence, though, you could tell, were getting much more. And I think it's clear to see late on, Rico was taking much more risks. He was, I think, throwing a lot at the same time as Alexander Usyk, trying to get to him. And he was standing and trading much more with, you know, the quicker puncher. He was taking much more risks, and he was getting much more confident. But I wouldn't say Rico was ever really hurting Usyk. He never had him in trouble, but you know he was clearly winning. He was outlanding it. He was doing more. Round 10, I think Rico started well, but Usyk came on very strong towards the end of the round, so I gave this round to Alexander Usyk. It seemed much better, cleaner combinations, much more urgency towards the end of the rounds. And the championship rounds are when Alexander Usyk really does start to pick up the momentum, does start to get into fights. And there was a clear momentum swing in round 10. Usyk was doing more, and Rico did find it difficult to deal with the speed once Alexander Usyk got it going. Before the stoppage, it was clear Usyk did have the momentum going into the round from the previous round. Rico was still competitive, but then again, as I was saying, Rico was still taking much more risks. He was rushing in more, trying to throw much more, and he was always dipping down into the uppercut and got caught with one. That's what happened. He got caught with one. Usyk did get that timing right. Rico was taking too many risks. And again, I think that's his fault. I feel like he should have done what he was doing more. And in the previous rounds, but I think he did get greedy, and that's when he walked or ran, should I say, right onto the uppercut from Alexander Usyk. And then what happened with the stoppage. There we go. Look, in my opinion, Usyk would have finished him in the 12th anyway. Then again, though, Rico has got very good recovery, so who knows? But if I had to put my money on it, I would have said Usyk would have finished him in the 12th anyway. But I guess we will never know. But the scorecards we had at the time of the stoppage, 2 a draw and 1 Rico just nicking it. it's pretty fishy if you ask me. But that's how I have it. That is how I had it.